Whoa. What is up, my people? What is up, everybody? I hope everything's amazing for you all, as always. I am your host, the Honorable OCT, OctaviusHaye, and this is the WACCast podcast. So with that being said, let's talk whack to him. Danny Masterson, who's best known for portraying the character of Stephen Hyde on the very popular television show That 70s Show, which is also a really good show, he was found guilty of raping women, and it was alleged that the Church of Scientology that he's a member of aided him in covering up, these heinous acts and silencing these victims, the women. I believe it was 3 women that were taking a stand and that were alleging this in this particular case. I think there's more that were not a part of this trial, but out of this trial, I believe it was just 3. And now, once he was found guilty, everybody was happy, and we're waiting for the sentencing date. And he was sentenced. He's got 30 years to life in prison. 30 years to life in prison. So he's going to be gone for a little while. I believe he's still talking about appealing it. I think the Church of Scientology is also talking about they're going to fight this. So we'll see what happens with that. But as of right now, 30 years to life, that's what the man's got. He's got, again, leaving him behind a wife and at least 1 child. Maybe more. And a whole bunch of other family members. But the man's going to be gone. He locked up. Now, what came from this is something that a lot of people were shocked about, which was generally lawyers would have their clients' friends and loved ones try to write letters to the judge talking about how good of a character the person is, hoping that the judge would be a little lenient with the sentencing. Didn't work this time. But what was leaked were those letters, and 2 names that are popping out to everybody were his co-stars, actually. Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis, who are now married to each other. They went to bat for Danny, who's their friend, and it was not even just that they were trying to get him a lighter sentencing, that saying, trying to say that, he has a child and he needs to be in his child's life. It's that they were trying to make this dude like this great guy who I've never known his terrible side. He's just an amazing person, how good he is, and he used to be so nice to people working on sets. And I mean, it was really like they went above and beyond to say how amazing of a person he is. It's like, dude, do you not realize that the man has been convicted of grape? Like, what are you talking about? Like, how are you gonna phrase that in any way that it don't just sound like a bunch of BS? Honestly, like, seriously, Ashton, seriously, Mina Kunis. So it's leaked. Everybody's talking about it. What they gotta do, what every celebrity gotta do, they come out with this apology video, sounding very bland, very dry, very like just gotta do what we gotta do so people don't hate us. And nobody bought that, because at the end of the day, you already knew what the accusations were, and you went out of your way for this guy who, even though he was your friend, you find out he's a monster, right? So if you don't believe it, and if you don't believe it, that's fine. But don't try to hide it, Don't try to duck off in the dark and then try to backpedal when it comes to light. That's where you don't get no respect from me from. If you're gonna stand by him, then stand by him, or don't. But again, they didn't think that this was going to come out. So maybe they need better lawyers, because it's always a good chance something could be leaked, even if it's not supposed to. So maybe you shouldn't even have yourself attached to that anyway. But with everybody talking about the letters, it's brought people to go back in time and relive some of these moments that we either didn't know about or thought were harmless. So for Ashton, he is all of a sudden now, everybody's going back and talking about how he's not so innocent himself, and how he was complicit in a lot of what Danny was doing. And they're even talking about a time when Ashton Kutcher lied to the police about finding his dead girlfriend or friend at the time, because he thought that it would hurt his career to be attached to a murder. Now, this was a crazy story. I didn't even know about this. So, apparently, this is what happened. So, Ashton Kutcher was dating this girl. She ended up being murdered by a serial killer who went on to kill like 2 other people, I think, after her. Ashton comes to go pick her up for a party, comes into her place, finds her dead, freaks out, calls his publicist, calls, I think, one of the writers or the creators of the 70s show, and he calls Danny too. And it's telling them, like, he don't know what to do, getting advice from them. And all of them said to just leave from there, go to the party, and act like you never saw her. So I think the next day, the girl's roommate catches her, they find her, and then very clearly the police are able to deduce that Ashton is just a liar. He's a big, fat, bold-faced liar. And he was there, and I think they have his DNA there. And so because Ashton Kutcher did that, even when they found the actual killer, there was so much reasonable doubt because Ashton's story didn't make sense. They knew there was no way they were going to have a good case. And so they didn't try him, and the man went and killed 2 other people. And it's just that, and it's just, Ashton Kutcher was hanging around the Scientology place, and him and Danny were good friends, so clearly he had to have known a lot of these accusations beforehand, right? And so it's just really not painting Ashton in the best light. And Ashton Kutcher, he's been doing a lot of hard work to give himself a good name with, investing in technology that's helping him catch, child rapists, child predators, and, getting a lot of good feedback and positive feedback on his work with that, to now this happened, and it's like, dude, did you have like a guilty conscience because of how crappy you are? I don't know. And then with Mila Kunis, it's coming back to how sexual they were with her even as a child when she was 14 on the show. And there's even an old interview where they're talking about Mila Kunis and Ashton Kutcher talking about Danny betting Ashton Kutcher, making a dare with him to tongue kiss this young 14-year-old while Ashton was 19 and Danny was around 22 at the time. So this is called a whole, ish storm that both of these people did not want. They thought they were doing a solid for their friend, and it turned into this, which now begs the question: why would these two? Why would Mila Kunis? Why would Ashton Kutcher even write these letters? And the answer, well, what I believe the answer to be is maybe it's a little bit of blackmail. It's nice to think they're being good friends, but really, why would you attach yourself to something this negative when you don't have to? I think that Danny, much like I believe Ashton knows a lot about Danny's dark secrets and what's in his closet, I think that Danny knows a lot about what's in Ashton's closet. And maybe there was a threat, especially along with the Church of Scientology involved. Maybe there was a threat of exposing certain secrets about Ashton. And so Ashton took it upon himself, like, okay, I'll write a letter. Again, thinking that it'll never be released. Because I just can't think of a guy like Ashton Kutcher who's really smart, even put himself attached to something about, a former or a friend, committing rape and sexually assaulting women and putting his name on that as far as anyway defending him. I can't imagine him thinking that was a good idea, even if he did think that nobody was going to see those letters. So I'm wondering how much of this involves maybe a little blackmail from Danny's side of the Church of Scientology. Either way, now Ashton Kutcher's name's being dragged through the mud. People are looking into him, looking into more of his deeds, his actions. And you know what happens when people look, a lot of those secrets that you've been hiding, when people are looking hard enough and is interested enough, if there's other people involved, the names are going to start coming out to share their side of the story, get a little money, get a few minutes of fame, or you maybe just even feel encouraged if they felt discouraged before that no one would believe them. Now, hey, maybe with all this negative, attention on Ashton or Mila, even Mila, maybe my voice will be heard and people will believe me and I can call out whoever for the wrong they done. You never know. So this is just crazy. Obviously happy that, justice has been served for those women. This is terrible what happened to them. I'm brave, all of them, for coming and fighting and sharing their stories. I think only 2 of them took the stand. I think one of them is still like hiding or, not hiding. That's not the right word, but they just don't want to come public with who they are. But I think 2 of them took the stand, but all of them are brave for fighting for this and standing up for themselves. Danny has nobody to blame for himself, but himself. He had, relatively successful career. Him and Ashton Kutcher were on a TV show on Netflix. He was doing okay, but even before that with that 70s show, he was doing good. But some people, when they get a little power, it gets to their head and they think that they're untouchable. And one of the things I know a lot of people hate the Me Too movement. I think there are negatives to it if you're lying, but when there is somebody who was a scumbag and when there is somebody who manipulated and took advantage of their power and helplessness of others, I'm happy that it's being taken more serious now, for sure. Now, this brings us to the Church of Scientology because there have been a lot of accusations of their involvement in these cover-ups. And the Church of Scientology pretty much said they're not done with this. And I think the most likely reason why they're not done with this is because their name is being dragged down so bad that they view Danny being arrested as like a slight on the church as a whole. Many people have called them a cult. The way they operate, with you having to be a member, and pay to, pay more money to advance higher, and you can't complain about or report other Scientologist members to the police. You can't talk to people who have left Scientology or have been kicked out. A lot of people who I know, or not who I know, but a lot of celebrities I know are inside. Again, I know, but who I know that are Scientologists, like Tom Cruise having issues with, like, I think him and his daughter aren't close because of that. It's shady. That's all I'm gonna say, because I don't really know too much about Scientology other than what people are saying. It's a cult, and they kind of keep you and brainwash you to yourself, and they take your money. So yeah, that like I said, that's all I really know about that. In this case, seems we're gonna be getting more information about Scientology, about Danny Masterson, about Mila Kunis, about Ashton Kutcher, maybe about a bunch of other people who played a role in this. We will see, because like I said, this is open. The floodgates have opened, and people are looking back to the past and saying, wait a minute, hold up, why we didn't check this earlier? But what y'all think, man, about this whole situation? Was it wrong for Ashton and Mila to write those letters? He is a friend, and they were just writing a letter is not saying that they don't believe he's guilty. He's just asking for a lighter sentence, just for his family, whatever. Or do y'all think that, nah, man, it don't even matter? Once you find out your friend do something like that, it's cutting off altogether. Even if even if there's a family member or whatever, you tell me. I can see why they would, the trickiness of it. I can see how somebody would be conflicted with that. Or do you think, one of my conspiracy theory, that it's possible that Ashton was blackmailed into doing it because Danny and the Church of Scientology have dirt on him? Now, it was just last week that Tyrese showed up to the Breakfast Club to call out Charlamagne the God, and more specifically DJ Envy, for not being there for him when he was going through his divorce, and how they was covering him in a way he felt was disrespectful. Now, those three brothers, and just hilarious, they ended the interview nice, happy, laughs, hugged it out, talked about it. Everything had been settled. Everything had been understood. And all three of those brothers, Charlamagne, Envy, and Tyrese, agreed that it was good to hold your brother accountable, and that they would be moving different with respect and love for each other. And we all said, "Oh, ain't that sweet?" We thought it was good. I was like, look at these three grown men coming together, being able to talk, hash things out without getting too crazy, and then, loving each other, hugging each other, and being brothers at the end, right? It was very inspirational. I was inspired. And then Tyrese had to do what Tyrese got to do. He goes online, like, I think, a day or two after, and start talking about how they don't respect him, people don't treat him good. He crying tears and just doing the most of the mostest stuff. And Tyrese, look, man, I thought that we talking about these was the psych med, so what's up now? You was off the psych med, so what's the excuse now for this video, Tyrese? Why are you doing this? And then, it was like yesterday, at the time of recording this video, like a day or two ago, Tyrese comes out and says, Envy said that I said something disrespectful to his wife, so I had to go through my phone, and I ain't say nothing disrespectful to Envy's wife, and Envy just lying, and he wasn't there for me, and I just know people ain't there for me when I'm there for them, and God asked me to do that. And, this whole spiel, this whole nonsense spiel. So then Envy comes out on the Breakfast Club and decides to air everything out, and he just said straight up, Tyrese tried to get at my wife. That's what Envy says. Envy said Tyrese was dirty macking, talking about, Envy had cheated on his wife. So Tyrese talking to Envy's wife, talking about, I would have never done that. I wouldn't have cheated on you. And said a bunch of other stuff that Envy and Envy's wife, was it Gia, I think it's Gia, she felt was, inappropriate. And that caused them to not talk as much. And my whole thing is, Tyrese, did you not know that? Well, I know he knew that, because even if he doesn't remember any of the stuff he was saying at the time because of his psych meds, as Tyrese accuses or claims, Charlamagne comes and says, I talked to Tyrese after he made that first video and told him what it was exactly that Envy was saying was disrespectful. So he knew what Envy was talking about. And should have just dropped it right there because everybody came together. But Tyrese is one of them dudes that's always got to be right. And he's going to find a way in the situation. I can just tell how he talks. He's going to find a way somehow for him to be the victim, for him to be the wrong one. And he did it with this. I'm going to tell y'all right now. I'm over Tyrese, bro. Like, when he was going in with The Rock just being ridiculous because The Rock wanted to do what The Rock wanted to do, I was like, it's kind of annoying, but whatever. Maybe he just feel passionate about them all making Fast and Furious movies together. I ain't gonna hold you. With this crying stuff he did, and then with the what you call that? What, Home Depot, with the issue with that. I know a lot of people were supporting him because he's black, but I was just looking at this dude like, bruh, get over it. It's not the deepest thing in the world. And I watched the video when he went up there, and the way he was talking, like, why are you this weird dude? Tyrese is extra. He is extra, and he one of the melodramatic dudes who got to talk in weird ways and give you long, sensual passages of pain, you know, and he's reflecting upon life and the way that the way life and destiny has corrupted those around. Well, he's one of them type of just extra dudes for no reason. And you know, for me, watching Tyrese do all of this, any nuance, any grace I was giving him, I'm done. Like the last pod, I was like, you know, Tyrese, he was going through it. I understand where he come from. I was agreeing with Envy, but I still felt, and I would give respect and understanding to Tyrese's point of view. Now, not no more, bro. If you over here trying to you keep talking about if this is true, because this is Envy and his wife's claim, but I'm more inclined to believe Envy because his wife's right there saying it too. And you know, she don't even be doing all this type of stuff, so I would be really surprised if she was willing to go along with it with a story like this. So I'm gonna say this, bro. If you over here talking about God sent you to help Envy and his wife and save their marriage, and you turn around and you trying to get at her and doing all this extra stuff, man, you must be crazy. What is wrong with you, Tyrese? What is really wrong with you? There's something sick in your head. It ain't just off of those psych meds. It's you. That's who you are. Now, Envy even comes out and says that one of the people that worked for Tyrese told Envy Tyrese was trying to mess with Envy's wife, because the person that wrote that said Tyrese tried to mess with their wife. And to say that's just the kind of guy that Tyrese is. Again, this is all accusations, allegedly. But again, Envy had his wife pretty much clarify all that on the radio, and she said that Tyrese would get upset with her if she wasn't available to him right away, and listed his demands of her. It's another man's wife, and he feel comfortable to tell this woman, hey, I got demands. This is how you gotta be acting with me and stuff like that. And then even before we found out that, or even before DJ Envy, you know, told everybody that Tyrese was trying to talk to Gia, when Tyrese himself was talking and he was saying what they text messages was in the video, I was thinking it was a little weird they was talking like that, like, and him showing her pictures and stuff. I'm like, that's a little weird. That's a little suspicious. What's that about? Because ain't no man finna show my woman be on the phone laughing, talking about, look at this new this I got, look at this new this I got, and all that stuff. So I thought that was crazy. Call me insecure, whatever you want to. What y'all need to be friends for? Y'all don't have no reason to be friends. Because truth be told, most of these women are annoying. Only reason why we deal with all that bull crap is because we getting some. So I'm very suspicious of any dude that want to be friends with a female, especially if she fine, and you getting all their problems without getting none of the good stuff. You ain't cooking, cleaning, and sucking my meat. What is that about? That's weird. Call me whatever you want to, but that's how I feel. And then so I'm looking at that whole situation like, Envy, you tripping. Like, you should even let them get this comfortable with each other. This dude don't sweat nothing. Gil was saying that Envy used to be right there next to her while they was talking, and she said he was feeling type way. Bro, I would have been like, what the fuck is you doing talking to my wife like that? Like, what is wrong with you? And why are you over here entertaining this dude listening to this? You should click as soon as he start wilding like that. I guess he was making certain quotes too about her, and probably talking about how good she look, how fine she is, probably saying weird stuff like that. Like I said, that I gotta put some of the blame on Envy. Just because you allowed this to go way too far. It's like, hey, thank you, brother. You don't need to be calling my wife like that, okay? I understand you want to be secure there, but this is why you don't let that happen. Exactly this reason right here. This conversation and he's sharing life and all this stuff. That's how feelings get caught. Now, luckily, Envy's wife wasn't returning the feelings, but clearly, Clearly, Tyrese ended up catching some type of feeling, to at least he wanted to at least smash. He started with this was a mission from God to now he allegedly trying to mess with Envy's wife. Now, I've been fair to Tyrese as far as saying it's allegedly, but I'm pretty sure Tyrese's gonna come out, give his 2-piece of it, give his side. If he do, I got a report on that, but honestly, I wish he did. I wish he don't. So what y'all think? Who y'all think lying? Y'all think Envy lying? Y'all think Tyrese lying? Y'all think that maybe both of them are truth? Both of them are telling the truth from a certain part of view, from their side, or how they view things were going versus reality. I don't know. But just tell me who team you on? Because everybody seem to be clicking up with this. Either you represent Envy or you represent Tyrese, or who team y'all on? Joe Budden was on vacation. That's right. The podcast took about a week off. And so when Joe came back, he was well rested. He had a lot of fun. And he was primed and ready to start cooking. And that's what he did. He baked, he fried, he broiled, he boiled, he did it all. He was cooking dudes because while Joe was gone, a lot of other people, other podcasters, people with platforms decided they want to talk some ish about Joe. And no, not his co-host. They was talking trash. They was going in at Joe. But these dudes must have forgotten that Joe Budden is a Virgo. And I tell you what about us Virgos. You don't want to mess with us. We ain't nothing nice. We remember everything and we hold you to account. Stuff you don't even remember doing. We already calculated how we're going to use that against you if you try to come at us. And that's what Joe did. He went ahead, addressed all the enemies. This was like some guy at the end of Godfather stuff. Handle all family business. First, for the former co-host Rory and Mal. Rory, they were reviewing on Rory and Mal's podcast. They were reviewing a documentary they had been watching, and one of the people in there was like a narcissistic type of dude, egotistical type of dude, controlling or whatever. And Rory just said something to the effect of like, "Ooh, does that remind you of anybody?" And of course, everybody got it right away. He was coming at Joe. But Joe showed some grace. He said he was giving grace to Rory and Mal. Mostly Rory. He don't really care about Mal. But he was saying he'll let it slide because they not built for war. They can't handle it. Right? Then Joe goes at one of Charlemagne's dudes from his Black Effect podcast network thingy. And just says he not even going to mention dude because his name's not worth mentioning. And I honestly can't remember his name. So, yeah, he pwned him out the way too. Then, of course, he went at the big dog, Charlemagne the God himself. Charlemagne on the Brilliant Idiots has said that he was tired of people talking about all the money they got and that they don't use their place and their privilege and what they've earned to help other people. It's all about themselves. To which Joe Budden really didn't comment on that, but what he said was he not talking to no dude that's the B mic on their own show. And from that, Joe Budden was talking about Brilliant Idiots podcast and saying that Andrew Schultz has eclipsed Charlemagne the God. If you remember, Joe Budden used to call Andrew Charlemagne's little sidekick, his lackey or whatever. Now he's saying the roles have reversed and Andrew is the big dog. He's the A mic and Charlemagne is the B mic. So taking shots there and probably trying to stir a little, dissension up between the two co-hosts. I don't see that happening, but hey, Joe gonna be Joe, right? Went in like that, quickly dismissed who is quickly becoming maybe his biggest media rival, Charlemagne. Then Joe Budden has some words for Fresh and Fit, Myron in particular. Myron has said some stuff about Joe because Joe called them dumb for losing their YouTube deal and losing all that money. Myron came out and talked about Joe's past of allegedly assaulting women, talked about Joe's past of allegedly being inappropriate with the dogs, and said he would beat Joe Budden up if he saw him, and he would say the same stuff to Joe's face, and then he put them hands on him, put the paws on him. So Joe just came out and said y'all didn't even sound convincing when y'all was saying that. Your voice was trembling. Again, pew, just dismissing them all, just knocking and flicking them all, boom, 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 going in as only Joe Budden can, as we love to hear it. The big one came with the final name that I got to talk about. That was Taxstone. Now, Taxstone and Joe have had a rocky past. Joe famously walked off of Taxstone's podcast when I feel that Taxstone was being very disrespectful to Joe and was blatantly trying to get a rise out of him. A lot of people have revisionist history about that situation and try to say that Joe was just being emotional for no reason. I think that they clearly did not watch that show, because if you watch it, you can see that Taxstone is trying to get under Joe Budden's skin to the point where Joe just had enough and just walks off and leaves. But Taxstone milked that whole thing and went on Vlad TV and just said a whole bunch of crazy nonsense, right, about it. But it seemed like they had gotten cool. I've seen them together at, certain times in panels and stuff talking, and it seemed like they was cool with each other. I thought the beef was squashed, and of course, when Taxstone got his legal issues with Troy Ave and got arrested, he found guilty, got sentenced. Joe Budden was waving the Taxstone flag saying free tax, free tax. We thought everything was cool. And then out of nowhere, Taxstone says that Joe Budden's a manipulator who only likes weak people around him, and starts to just show like he has no love for Joe Budden. And then you get Joe Budden on $1 Million Worth of Game. They're asking Joe, who was his influence in this podcasting field. Gilly shouts out Taxstone, and Joe says no, Taxstone was a worker. Joe said that Taxstone could never be an influence on Joe because Taxstone's mindset is that of a worker, and Joe's a boss. Joe said that Combat Jack was his influence, is who he learned from most with this podcast stuff, at least starting out. That sent Taxstone into quite a bit of a rage, and he started doing that weird riddle talk that all you New York dudes love to do because I think it's cool, like y'all in the mob or something. And I start saying a bunch of weird stuff that people gotta decipher and like, whatever, dude. So Joe finally said, I've had enough, and all I can stand, and I can't stand no more. Joe Budden went in on Taxstone. He broke down how Taxstone essentially became a sucker for Charlemagne and followed behind him, and how Taxstone, like a lot of these other street dudes, are real sensitive, and when people are talking about their feelings and how they feel on stuff, they get really upset. And he talked about how Taxstone screwed his life over because he wanted to stay in the streets instead of getting the bag. Instead of advancing himself, he brought a gun to a benefit event, and where families were at, and people were able to have a good time, and chose to be street instead of advancing in life. And now he's lost everything and is bitter and spiteful and hateful for it. I mean, the venom that was coming out of Joe's mouth, he smacked down, he sunned Taxstone in every way. He said that what was the line he said? You not something about I don't even remember, but it was saying like the streets took everything from you because you had to stay in the streets. I mean, it was great. It was great as far as like just hearing somebody break someone down. He even showed DMs of Taxstone DMing him, asking him why people are picking Troy's side. And everybody know that Joe Budden and Troy Ave don't like each other. But even Joe had to say, man, you stalked Troy Ave, and you and just antagonized. You killed a good man and shot a good woman because a female got hurt in that. But Joe Budden's talking about or showed the DMs from Taxstone asking why everybody treat him like this, and Taxstone's apologizing to Joe and all this stuff. It just showing the receipts of Taxstone's not really what he's portraying to be, or not taking the true stance that he has in public. He's in public, he's being this mean person to Joe, or he's criticizing Joe and being confrontational about Joe. And in private, he's DM'd Joe Budden asking him to help him, or at least saying like, hey, he's sorry if he done anything to hurt him. And to Joe's point, if you feel so strongly that Joe's his bad person, why would you apologize like that? It comes off as fake and insincere. And you got all this time and you want to focus on all this other nonsense. He got like over 30 years or whatever. And this is what you focus on, Taxstone? I mean, Joe just broke him down. You have not learned any lesson. You stayed in this street stuff. It took you away from this great lifestyle that you were bound to have, because you had to be too tough for your own good. And even after that, you still have not learned your lesson, still playing these games. It's a sad state of affairs for Taxstone, and Joe Budden just broke it down just so elegant as only a Virgo brother can, bro. We Virgos is dangerous, and Joe showed you why, because Taxstone is looking foolish out here. And any type of cool cred that he once had, you just gotta look at this dude like you was goofy, bro. Look at where you at now because of why. Why did you need to antagonize people? Why did you need to pull out that gun? Why did you need to go to this level of stuff that wasn't even no street stuff? Y'all, he's a musician and you are a media personality. Now you're a convict. Now you're an inmate. When you could have, I mean, the world was yours. I remember back then you was hot. Who knows what you would be doing right now? But it's that mindset. And Joe put you in your place. So that's what that is with Joe, man. What do y'all think? Y'all think that Joe ate these dudes up? Do you think that they had valid points and stuff they were saying about him? Let me know. And then furthermore, let me know about Taxstone. What do you think about Tax? Do you think that is an L for him to be where he's at right now? Or you think he kept it real? He did what he had to do? So that's the show. Thank you all so much for tuning in and taking in this whack wisdom, and hope you come back next week to get a little bit more from me. That being said, if you haven't already, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell. If you are listening to this on YouTube, and if you're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, please make sure to follow, like, review, comment, whatever it is on those platforms to help us there. You know, really be appreciated. That being said, this is the WACCast podcast, and I am whacking off.
It's the WACCast podcast, yeah.
Talk whack to me, talk whack to me,
yeah.
Talk whack to me, talk whack
it's
to me.
It's the WACCast podcast, yeah.
Talk whack to me, talk whack to me,
yeah.
Talk whack to me, talk whack to me.